What's going on, everybody? Jumping on here to recap. Big time Steelers win 27-20 over the Indianapolis Colts at home as the underdogs. I think I can speak for everybody when I say this, but that was the best performance we've seen by this defense really all season long. The Colts were, on a hot streak coming in here, really on a historic pace offensively. And I really felt like for really the entirety of this game, Pittsburgh controlled things up front and let their pass rush really eat, made the Colts one-dimensional, ended up playing with the lead, which we talked about. The Colts hadn't really played, outside that much this year, and they hadn't trailed by very many points this year either. So kind of put them outside of their element a little bit. They made some uncharacteristic mistakes, obviously, with the punt return gaff early in the game, which I thought was a huge swing. The Steelers didn't convert off of that ultimately, but definitely a weird swing in the game. But forcing 6 turnovers is big time, man. Like, this is a team that came in, I think, only with like 3 or 4 giveaways through the first 7 games of the season or whatever. And then to get 6 of them, especially in the manner in which they did, I think, there's no like voodoo magic or anything like that involved in getting the win here. I really felt like a lot of those turnovers were earned. And it was just really good to see them kind of put together this type of performance after, seeing a lot of, I would say, deserved criticism for the way that they played this season, especially in recent weeks. Had some really big key contributions from guys that, had to play probably more than the team probably would have liked. So guys like Kyle Duggar on 2 days of practice, he has to come in and I'm pretty sure like play pretty much every snap. Don't really have any firm takes on like live viewing. Didn't really notice him very much, but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. We'll see what it looks like on film. But, I thought that was definitely notable, especially like Jalen Ramsey being a free safety. The big thing was like Colts come in here as the, most explosive offense in the league. They gave up a ton of explosives last week, one over the head to Jordan Love in a key moment. I didn't think that, the footballs weren't flying over people's heads this week. And I think a lot of the reason for that was, which you got to give the coaching staff credit for, even if, you could argue that it's been a couple of weeks now that we've been asking about this, but there was definitely a shift in kind of their coverage matrix this week. NGS had a really nice stat about this, but Steelers defense showed a significant shift in coverage tendencies, split field coverage on a season high 46.4% of their dropbacks. Entering the week, they had the second lowest split safety usage in the NFL at 28%. So a huge difference there. Now, whether that was because of the changes at safety or just an individualized game plan, either way, it worked. I do think that there are things to be learned from this win. John and I talked about with the podcast, they had to reduce the amount of, man free that they were playing on the back end. They just don't have the horses, and it was having a negative effect on their pass rush because quarterbacks were just getting the ball out so quickly. The Steelers only blitzed on like a quarter of Daniel Jones' dropbacks during this game too, and he wasn't very successful when he was kept clean or under pressure. So I just thought that the pass rush was really a game changer in this one. This is how it really should look every single week. I thought there were really nice reps from individuals. Alex Highsmith had an amazing game, led the team with 4 pressures. He had 2 sacks, 1 strip sack, had made a nice play in coverage, getting a forced incompletion, and then played the run extremely well as well. And then TJ had one of the first turnovers, I think, in the first half as well, getting that strip sack, winning around the outside corner. Some other guys contributed. Keanu Benton had a sack. So I just felt like the pocket was pretty condensed all afternoon long, and I felt like you saw Daniel Jones just get a little bit uncomfortable back there, and that's kind of what this defense is like, should be designed to do, take advantage of your best players. And it was good to see, the edge rush duo dominate the way that they did against the Colts offensive line has been playing really well. And I thought against the run, the Colts, we talked about in the preview, being a team that likes to throw to score, run to win. Well, they got them behind, not just behind in the game, but also behind in the sticks. They were really good on first downs in this one. The Colts converted a couple third and long situations, but I just felt like they kind of forced the Colts to play left-handed a little bit, and I felt like that was a really big contributor to them winning this one. Just as far as other defensive notes that I kind of had, Peyton Wilson was fantastic. Talked about this on the podcast last week too, but I don't really think it's necessary for Peyton to be platooning with some of these other guys, whether it's Harrison or Cole Holcomb. I just think he's been better than them in recent weeks, and he's really strung together 2 back-to-back really, really good performances. So maybe didn't start the season the way that I would have liked, or we kind of anticipated him coming into year two. But I really think the last two games have been really, really good, especially in run support. He has the two massive plays in coverage. Jones kind of loses his mind on the first one and throws it right to him. I just don't think he really saw him. But even that second play, coming off the edge, getting his hands on the ball, and then Sawyer comes away with the pick. Just huge game changing types of swings. I thought Patrick Queen played better than he did last week in this one as well. On the outside, I thought it was a little bit more up and down, but that's what this defense can do. Like if the pass rush is humming the way it is, it alleviates some of the pressure. And if you play more zone coverage, more too high, it takes the pressure off of some of your cornerback matchups. Joey Porter Jr. had a eventful day. It was a wild one. I think he had 10 targets, gave up 6 catches, like 60-something yards. They 3 pass breakups, had the interception overthrow late in the game. So a couple penalties thrown in there. So maybe this is like the most ultimate Joey Porter Jr. game of all time. He's probably someone we will do a film room on at some point this week if I can find time. And of course, YouTube actually allows me to post it. So we'll take a look at that for sure, but definitely thought that his play was relatively uneven. I think the biggest question revolving the defense before we start talking about the offense is just, what does the secondary kind of look like moving forward? Positionally, do you want to play Ramsey at free safety just because you feel like he can give you some stability back there, and then continue to play Duggar in the box at least until Elliott comes back, if he's able to come back at least this season? I think that's a possibility worth exploring depending on what the tape looks like. I would also just point out that I really do truly believe that Jalen's best spot at this point in his career is in the slot as a nickel player, and that's where I want him. But I understand if they could come to the conclusion that maybe they just think that Brandon Echols is a better slot corner than either of the other safeties they have playing in center field, whether that be Juan Thornhill or Jabril Peppers or whatever. You're going to have to find a way to get your best 5 guys on the field. I'm not necessarily sure if that involves Darius Slay. I don't think it does personally, but I don't think he was completely terrible in this game either. So we'll see what that looks like. James Pierre came in, had some nice moments as well. So that's really the biggest question I have is just, what is that? I don't want a rotation anymore. I talked about trying to streamline the communication, get the same guys in there on a weekly basis, get guys used to working together, communicating with each other. And I would just rather, find out who you want. Of course, injuries can always change plans down the road, but, try to figure that thing out. Offensively, not the best game from them, to be completely honest. I mean, the 27 points on the scoreboard looks nice, but really that was mostly just more of a proponent of them getting excellent starting field position. Even then, they didn't convert as much as they probably should have. They were only 3 for 6 in the red zone in this game. Not great. They averaged 3.7 yards per play. You look at the success rate numbers, 41%. So all pretty well below average. I thought the run game in this one was a little bit disappointing to me. I didn't feel like they controlled the line of scrimmage the way that I thought they could. The game plan running the ball was also a little bit weird. We talked about in the preview that the Colts have been exposed a little bit to perimeter runs. It's where the majority of their explosives that they've allowed have came from. I feel like it was a lot of interior runs this week, or maybe I could be tripping. I don't know. That's just the way that it felt watching live. And I just feel like they didn't really get a lot of movement up front. And then later in the game, you saw Pratt get the run through on the toss play. So, the run game definitely left something to be desired. I don't really necessarily feel like the backs were making a lot of things happen either, which is kind of weird because I think that's been something that Warren in particular has done all season long, but had to go back on the film and kind of see what kind of transpired up front. Other thing, too, I was really happy about, they found a counter to all these pitch plays. So, again, just referencing stuff we talked about in the podcast, but this has been the most pitch-happy team in the NFL this season. They've been wildly successful with it, especially when they get into their jumbo looks. But they actually had a couple play-action plays. I think both of them at least one of them resulted in a check down for 9-10 yards. But it was just nice to see continually trying to add wrinkles to some of the things that they're doing offensively. I just think it's going to, this is a limited offense from a personnel standpoint. You got a young offensive line, you got a quarterback who at this stage of his career can only really operate in one particular way. And then you've got a receiving core that, just doesn't have a ton of playmakers. But I thought the tight ends in this one played really well. Freiermuth had a really nice catch in the red zone. That was Aaron Rodgers' best throw of the day. He put it behind him to kind of shield him away from that free safety. And then Darnell Washington, a little bit of a rough start. I thought he probably should have at least came down with one of those 2 passes in the red zone early in the first quarter. But I thought both of his catches in the second half were really nice grabs away from his frame. One in particular on that sail route, which was, a couple steps behind him. So who knows, if you don't get your hands on that ball or you're not able to make that catch, that's where danger happens. Tip balls, interceptions, things like that. But the Steelers won the turnover battle in this one, obviously, only having the one turnover, which was Roman Wilson trying to. I mean, I just think as a young player, situational ball is like super important. I think Roman over the past couple of weeks has kind of earned a little bit more playing time with, some of the things he's done in the scramble drill, earning the trust of the coaching staff and the quarterback. But when you do stuff like that, you're trying to run out the clock, you're hurdling after you've already got the first down, trying to make plays. I understand it, but as a young player, you got to know the time, the situation. You just got to go down. So that'll be something to kind of monitor to see what that does. I don't think every single insider is reporting the exact same thing. The Steelers are going to be in the market for a wide receiver come the trade deadline. We'll see if they're actually able to get anything done or not. I mean, that's something we've been talking about, I feel like, for years now. I do think a wide receiver, too, would be nice to have in this team just because you look around the NFL, the teams that are going to be in the playoff hunt, the Chiefs, the Bills, these Colts, again, those teams are going to score points. So the offense is going to have to play way better than they did today, especially if the defense plays up to its caliber, up to, the standard that I think a lot of us kind of set for them coming into the season. It would sure feel nice to have an additional weapon out there. I actually think the offensive line and pass protection was really good. Rodgers was only pressured, I think, on like 5 or 6 of his dropbacks. It's always hard to evaluate that stuff, right? Because like Rodgers get the ball out of his hands so quickly. They're not pushing the ball down the field. They only have one completion today past 10 yards. So I think the 2.9 yards average depth of target. So it's just not, it's difficult to evaluate those guys, but I do think they played fairly well. I thought at least 2 of the sacks that Rodgers took in this one were really throws that I thought should have been made. Like he should have got the ball out of his hands. The other one, I think the Broderick one was probably more so on the left tackle than anything else. But Troy Fautanu, I mentioned this in my Dudes and Duds column, but has yet to allow a sack through the first 8 games of the season. That's pretty good, man. Like, again, it's a unique offense for sure. Not a lot of true drop back situations. So it's difficult to compare across the league. But at the same time, I think when you get through 8 games of anything, and this is a guy that's switching positions, in the NFL and kind of learning on the fly after really in what is really his rookie season. I mean, he lost all of last year due to injury. So I think you have to be impressed. I said it earlier in the year that I thought that he was playing really good ball and better than a lot of people were giving him credit for. I think that, some of those ugly losses where it was 2 a game, I think that it's really been like maybe 1 a game or less. He didn't even allow a single pressure in this game. So we'll see what the tape looks like, but I'm pretty optimistic. I thought it was pretty good going up against Kwity Paye for the most part. Latu had some nice plays for the Colts, but overall, I think the pass protection was pretty good in this one. So we'll see what transpires over the next like 48 hours or so. If anything happens through the week, I'll definitely be on here to kind of recap some trade deadline stuff, but just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up kind of on content for this week. I'll try to have some sort of like film room or something like that up here in the next 24, 48 hours. John and I will be back for the Yens No Ball podcast on Tuesday. If you guys are interested in that stuff, additional content, film rooms, the podcast, which is usually about in between like an hour, 2 hours long every single week. Be sure to become a channel member. It's $4 a month, no long-term commitment. It's just a added content. John and I kind of just give takes on, team building, film observations, all that stuff. I think you guys would really enjoy it. Definitely had a lot of new members sign up. It seems like people are digging the pod, and I've really had a lot of fun with it as well. So hopefully, the Steelers are able to make a move, and I'm able to jump back on here and kind of talk about them kind of continually to upgrade the roster. Definitely going to be a situation where I don't expect them to make a huge splash trade where it's going to be probably like a big name or anything like that. But I do think that there are quality wide receiver 2s out there available that can not only help you this year, but I think, going after somebody that could potentially help you in future years too, even if they're an impending free agent, I think is a smart move. And it's a move worth making at this point with you being 5-3 going into the deadline and, an AFC North division that's very, very winnable. Of course, Baltimore getting Lamar Jackson back kind of changes the calculus a little bit, but the Steelers are going to play them twice coming up. Go to Chargers, got to handle business next week. But I really think that 10 wins is probably like the magic number to win the division this year. And, they're halfway there. So I'm honestly very surprised at the way that the game unfolded. I thought that last week might be the game of the year that the Steelers just have an improbable victory. Just doesn't look good on paper, but then they show up and they just play fantastic. I was just a week early, but hats off to them. I'm really impressed with the defense. I can't wait to get to the film, and I'm glad for the fan base too, because I felt like the vibes were really pretty bleak over the past like week or two on social media, YouTube comments. I've been like reading all kinds of stuff, so I think it's good. It'll boost people's spirits, and hopefully this will be a sign of things to come, and they're able to kind of get things back on track. But as always, I really appreciate everyone's feedback, continued support. Just on your way out, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop me a comment. If you guys have certain things that you want to see in the film room or anything like that, let me know, and I will check you guys very soon. Peace and love.